What does it say?
All right.
Hmm. I have no idea.
Pastor Stephen, do you know why the screen is bouncing around and showing all kinds of colors?
Is it doing it on everybody's?
I
No,
don't
just on Margaret's.
Yeah, I thought maybe it was just mine, but
Okay, so it is everybody. Well, I just wondered.
Not mine.
Oh, it's not yours. Okay.
No. And right now, I don't see it bouncing on anybody's. For a minute, it was bouncing on Margaret's.
Yeah, it was bouncing on Margaret's. I saw that, but
Well, it's been bouncing on mine with pink and purple and all kinds of pixels.
well, I mean,
There they go again. Oh, and you know what? When it's bouncing on them, I'm seeing
everybody.
everybody flashing by. Maybe we ought to start again, Stephen.
No, it's just Margaret's screen.
You think so?
I'm
Oh,
waiting
I
on.
know so. Yeah, y'all probably. I have it on gallery view,
oh, okay. Okay.
and y'all probably have it on single view. And so when it does it, it's switching to her.
Oh,
on
okay.
that, but
Okay.
we will be fixing that hopefully sooner than later, right,
Yeah.
Margaret?
Right.
Because as my computer does not do that, this will soon be Margaret's computer as soon as they replace mine.
Hallelujah.
Because we feel the church secretary needs a reliable computer to do all the things that she does. So the only thing you may consider purchasing, Margaret, would be a webcam, because the one that's built in here is at the very top of the screen. And so that's why I use a different camera. Otherwise, well, I can show you. Let's see. No, that's the wrong one. This is it. It's the top of my head.
Uh-huh.
But we see all of your
Pull
head.
it down.
You do. You do see all of my head, but that's because I have to have my I have to have my chair all the way up.
Well, mine's at the top of my screen. And
Well, but this is a fairly large screen.
Yeah, his is a much larger screen than I.
I mean, it's about I want to say it's a 32-inch screen.
Oh my.
I mean, well, I mean, as much video stuff as I do, I need to be able to see what I'm doing.
that makes sense.
At any rate, let us begin with prayer. God, we thank you for today. We thank you for this opportunity to learn, to grow, and to love. We ask now that you bless this conversation and bless us. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
So just what I was doing as you came in, I was posting last week's video right before I started this week's video. So hopefully it will be all posted up there, and 14 and 15 will be with us. So
Did you clean it up?
yeah, I edited. I took out the announcements. I took out the whole discussion of why we were in YouTube jail.
Good plan.
And so, all right, we are on John 15, sorry. And actually this one runs a little bit into John 16. Because whoever put the numbers in the book of John was kind of an idiot. All right. We will begin with the first 17 verses. This is actually today's lesson is just divided into two sections. Jesus was walking, or either still in the upper room or walking to the garden when he was teaching. I am the true vine, and my Father is the vine grower. He removes every branch in me that bears no fruit. Every branch that bears fruit, he prunes to make it bear more fruit. You have already been cleansed by the word that I have spoken to you. Abide in me as I abide in you. Just as a branch cannot bear fruit by itself unless it abides in the vine, neither can you unless you abide in me. I am the vine, you are the branches. Those who abide in me and I in them bear much fruit, because apart from me you can do nothing. Whoever does not abide in me is thrown away like a branch and withers. Such branches are gathered, thrown into the fire, and burned. If you abide in me and my words abide in you, ask for whatever you wish, and it will be done for you. My Father is glorified by this, that you bear much fruit and become my disciples. As the Father has loved me, so I have loved you. Abide in my love. If you keep my commandments, you will abide in my love, just as I have kept my Father's commandments and abide in his love. I have said these things to you so that my joy may be in you and that your joy may be complete. This is my commandment, that you love one another as I have loved you. No one has greater love than this, to lay down one's life for one's friends. You are my friends if you do what I command you. I do not call you servants any longer, because the servant does not know what the master is doing, but I have called you friends, because I have made known to you everything I have heard from my Father. You did not choose me, but I chose you, and I appointed you to go bear fruit that will last, so that the Father will give you. And whatever you ask him in my name, I am giving you these commands, so that you may love one another. Read through that, and then we'll chat about it. All right. I realized as I was reading through this, I probably should have broken this up a little better. But let's talk about it. So what did you hear in this?
Well, we hear again, ask for whatever you wish and it will be done for you. And we've heard that earlier, I think.
Last week.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why I remember it so well. And I have trouble with that because we ask for a lot of things that don't get done for us. I've got friends who are dying of cancer, and we ask for healing and it doesn't get done.
Well, one of the things that I learned on CPE, as far as that particular issue, is that the kind of healing that we pray for, maybe not the kind of healing that they receive.
Okay.
I mean, the ultimate healing is death for all of us. Believing what we believe, I mean, God sees a bigger picture than we have. And so sometimes the healing that we pray for is death. But that death is only the earthly death and not the final death. I mean, not, and so we believe that that's healing.
Okay.
It's just not the healing that we want, quite
Yeah.
honestly. But yeah, that does seem very broad, but at the same time, I don't think that Jesus is saying, hey, I'll be your cosmic wishing well. If you want to be rich, just whatever you say. Because I mean, this could easily be taken into the prosperity gospel.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And we can't pretend as if bad things will no longer happen. Because do you honestly think that, I mean, the very next part of this chapter is the world's going to hate you.
Yeah.
I'm thinking that they probably would have asked that the world didn't hate them.
Yeah.
I would have, but it is, I mean, it's a troubling statement. But it's also because I think he must have meant something differently than we think.
Well, and a lot of, human nature, we tend, many of us, and especially as young as maybe a believer, we take things literally, and that's what sort of causes this to be very problematic for understanding. And I was just wondering, if you go back to, again, we're dealing with translations and translations of translations of translations. So, it makes me wonder if something was lost in the translation, let's put it that way, because I don't think Jesus would have ever it just doesn't seem like it goes with all of his other statements.
Well, let's look at the term healing. I think automatically when Stephen's mom said that, the first thing I think of when I think of healing is of the flesh. But also when I'm thinking of healing, spiritual healing or love is other forms of healing. If my flesh, if I have cancer or if I have, something like that, and, it may be hard and whatever else, but if I had to choose, if my flesh was not well or my spirit was not well, I would choose my spirit, because I can be sick and still be okay if my spirit is okay. I can be healthy, and if my spirit's not okay, I'm still not okay. If my flesh is healthy, but I'm spiritually not healthy, I still feel terrible. So I think the spiritual is part of the love. Love is part of it, and healing is spiritual, maybe.
Um,
Well, and if you look at the verse, I mean, we think of healing, but the verse doesn't say it's about healing. You know, it just says, if you remain in me and my words remain in you, ask whatever you wish. It's not just about healing. It just says, ask whatever you wish and it will be given you. So, it's not exclusively about healing.
True.
could be.
Well,
It says here, because I'm looking this up, is that perhaps life in Jesus, life in the vine, teaches us what to ask for. Maybe the whatevers Jesus is talking about, I mean, we know what's sensible to ask for.
Well, sort of like Bobby said, it's not necessarily a physical healing of any kind or that we need to ask for physical things, but spiritual things. That gave me a lot to think about.
Well, it also goes back to not my will, but your will be done.
Yeah, it leads into kind of, abide in him and bear much fruit. And then so you wait to see, okay, what does abide in him really mean? And he literally says, abide in his commandments and his joy will be given, or his joy will be in you.
But at the same time, I think that Jesus is also calling us to think big, dream big. I think this is one mistake that congregations make. They look at this uphill battle. Well, we can't do that. We can't afford that. We don't have enough people for that. That we just won't be able to do that. And that's the kind of, and realize that the uphill battle that the disciples were facing as they were sharing the good news of Jesus was reaching it out to the entire world and bearing fruit in the entire world, which I'm sure was seemingly impossible. And so, also remember, this was being preached because we talked about that John's gospel was being preached. This was being preached to the early church that had a lot of struggles, a lot of divisions and things like that, and persecutions. And, Jesus talks about the world hating you. Well, that I'm sure that what they wanted then was for the world not to hate them, that their lives would not be at risk for being believers. Well, guess what? We're sitting out here in the public. There's a big old sign that glows right in front of my office, saying who we are. We don't need to worry about, the police coming in here and breaking this place up. We don't need to be worried about being fed to the lions. Yes, there are things that we're persecuted for personally. But the persecutions that these people faced, we don't face anymore. And so, was that prayer answered? And so some of it is knowing what to pray for, and what to ask for, but it's also not limiting God. Look, I still pray that my father's healed. That one day he just wake up and remember everything again. I still pray for that. Is that in the likelihood? No. But does it hurt to pray?
For him to be content with where he is and find comfort.
And that probably makes a little more sense.
Especially since he was using bad language at the ladies this week.
Oh, well, he's used bad language at me before. They'll get over it. They probably won't even remember. Oh, wait, the ladies that are caring for him or the ladies that are
The
other
ladies
ladies in there?
caring for him.
They're probably used to it.
They told me that they were, but it still bothers me because that's not your daddy.
No. Well, again, he used bad language towards me lots of times. So
Not this bad.
oh, okay. Well, that's good. But yeah, they're used to it because that's the stage people go through, I guess.
Yeah.
At any rate, what else do you see in this?
Well, and I was just thinking about, when it says that it will be given to you, that it also could mean that it's not necessarily given to you personally, because he's talking about bearing fruit. And we may not, well, we do not know the extent of the things we do and the impact on other people that are as a result of what we've done. And so it really is, it's given to us, but we may not realize it. We may not know the impact that we have.
Yeah. So we talk about branches and stuff. Have any of y'all ever grown grapes?
Yes. Well, my dad did. Yes.
So what happens if it's not pruned?
It just gets longer and has very little fruit on it.
Or it dies,
Yeah.
withers and dies.
The author was talking about pruning rose bushes and why that's important, because it'll just grow in on itself.
Right. Or it just gets long and leggy and very
Unmanageable.
right. Yeah.
And so Hugh probably knows a few things about the importance of pruning. I'm guessing. I mean, seeing as how you were educated in that and did it for a career, but
Prune out the old so the new can come through.
Yeah.
yeah. What kind of pruning do you think he's talking about here?
Thoughts, actions. I mean, it goes back to love. He says, love one another. So that's part of it. And it mentions abide in his commandments. So, but then it doesn't define the basic commandment is love one another. So continually working on that.
What's the general thought that people have when it comes to pruning? Like what Jesus is talking about here?
Cutting away the bad.
The bad what?
Well, behaviors and thoughts and deeds.
Yeah. That's what I think. But I think that there are those who think that this means he cuts away the bad people.
Yeah. Is it accept, we perceive it as it, are we accept it, or are we bad?
Yeah. Now, the interesting thing in this passage is that in the Old Testament, the vine is not Jesus, it's Israel. And so Jesus here is redefining that, is that life in him is life on the vine. Because basically, for Jews, salvation was for the Jews. You were kind of born into it. it was your birthright, basically. And what Jesus is saying now is belief in him is salvation. Being a part of that vine is salvation.
Mhm.
But yes, I believe as for the pruning, I think it's about pruning the bad parts of us.
And that we grow and grow in knowledge, we grow in truth. We, hopefully we're becoming better people and following the commandment more closely.
Yeah, I mean, it is. It's about bearing fruit. And in order to bear good fruit, you have to cut some things out.
You have to change.
Exactly. And honestly, that's kind of what the whole giving something up for Lent, making changes for Lent is all about. It's an opportunity to prune.
Yeah.
And be pruned.
Mhm.
So it's not I think Catholics see it a bit differently, I believe. For them, it's about having a sacrifice to remember Jesus' sacrifice, which that makes sense too. But I think it's more about this, which is why, like in the Catholic way, like giving up chocolate, giving up something that you're going to go right back to afterwards is, I mean, you remember Jesus' sacrifice doing that. But if you're giving up something like, if you're giving up something, if you're pruning something as a way to bear more fruit, that's more substantial. That's more lasting.
Right.
And it honestly more meaningful. So
I wonder if some people now think that that's pruning bad people by their definition of what bad people is,
almost certainly.
who bad people are.
Almost certainly. Because that's how we are. I mean, who defines what bad is? We do.
And we define it based on what we believe, while somebody else defines based on what they believe.
Right. Our experiences, our knowledge, our opinions. And there's a whole lot of that going on now.
Mm-hmm.
About who's right, who's wrong, what's right, what's wrong. And amazingly, it always falls down to the fact that I'm right. So it's a good thing that I always am.
We're gonna leave that alone.
Yeah. but Jesus keeps talking, if you keep my commandments, and I have kept my Father's commandment. And then in 12, this is my commandment,
Mm-hmm.
that you love one another. And the Christian church sucks at this. I mean, we really do. Maybe we used to be better at it. I don't know. I don't think so. Back in the day, they had this thing called the Spanish Inquisition. That wasn't very nice. The Crusades, that wasn't the kindest part of our faith. But now it is very much, and sadly, it's our politics that are bleeding through more than anything.
Mm-hmm. We don't love everyone. We love the ones that we have decided are lovable.
Yeah. Well, and we love the people that agree with us.
Yeah.
As I said the other day in my sermon, that look like us, act like us, talk like us. Those are when we love one another. We love our people. And, we have a hard time letting those people in. Or even trying to see life from their point of view.
Yeah, it's hard to see it from their point of view. As a retired librarian, I'm having a lot of problems with some of the books that are being banned.
Yeah, but it's somebody's opinion. I mean, it's, you know, and oh, by the way, both sides are picking the books to be banned.
Mhm.
Right.
Books that you and I read, and I don't think it ruined us. You know, I'm wondering if, oh, what is that book? It's a red plain cover and always has been.
And it's thin. It's not a fat book.
Which is probably why I read it. And then it has the F word like every other page, which I really liked. It probably hadn't been banned.
Yeah, it has.
Has it?
Yeah. I don't think
Probably
it
should have been.
I don't think it's of mice and men, but it's
Oh no, it's not. It's not.
it's the one that goes with it.
I mean, there's a whole chapter on the F word.
I can't remember what it was.
All right. Well, that's what the Lord made the internet for. Hang on. JD Salinger, no. The Catcher in the Rye.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Banned books. Okay, here are some of the list of banned books. The Great Gatsby, which that hadn't been banned too much because my kids still read it. The Catcher in the Rye, The Color Purple, The Grapes of Wrath, Ulysses, Beloved, Lord of the Flies, which my child is currently reading, Of Mice and Men, Brave New World, Animal Farm, As I Lay Dying, Their Eyes Were Watching God, Native Son, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, Slaughterhouse 5, For Whom the Bell Tolls, Go Tell It on the Mountain, Lord of the Rings, A Separate Piece, Bride Shed Revisited, Bridge to Terabithia, Where's Waldo, Little Red Riding Hood, and The Diary of Anne Frank.
Yep. I mean, and I think the Adventures of Tom Sawyer have been outlawed.
Oh, that one's been gone.
But you know, that it just bothers me. And like I said, that comes from being a librarian. There are some books that should not be in elementary libraries. There's some books that shouldn't be in middle school libraries. But public libraries, I think you should be able to check out whatever you want to.
Yeah.
Well, and Pastor Stephen, it's basically the excess of what you've already talked about, that we believe people that think like us. And so book banning is basically trying to make it so you're forcing people to think like you, because
That's exactly right.
you know, it's taking it to the next level. It's trying to impose your beliefs on others instead of maybe trying to convince them. I mean, you're just trying to force them. And but as you say, it's multiple sides. I mean, there aren't just two. There's a ton of sides.
Yes,
Oh yeah.
And all are trying to impose and force other people to have their beliefs.
Well, yeah. I mean, some of it is because racist words are used. Some of it is because slavery is glorified. Some of it is because slavery is not glorified. Some of it is because there's sexual exploitation of, you know, and some of it is because it talks about transgenders or gay people, or and now at the same time, I recently learned that one of the books, because the book curriculums that they use in elementary schools, one of them has a same-sex parents. There's two moms, which I support that, because there are children in schools that need to be able to see themselves in books. You know, I mean, Stacy has kids in her, or had kids in her class with two moms and two dads. You know, she learned the importance of having books with Black people in it, so that the children could see themselves in the books. It's important. But at the same time, one of these books that's part of a curriculum, actually those parents then went to a gay pride parade. Why? You know, I mean, it's one thing to show kids in books, but then you're taking it a step farther when they could have just gone to a parade. And that's an elementary school book. It's because also you have people of their own political bent, their own, that they literally do try to push things into schools. And again, it is on both sides of the table. And you know, children should be taught to love, to be kind, and to read and do math. That's pretty much what the elementary school is. You know, teach them to be nice to each other. And when there were parts of our history that we weren't being kind to each other, say that.
Right.
Right.
I mean,
You know, when you talk about slavery, say this was a bad thing. We shouldn't have done this.
Right.
But we did. And we learned from it. And what we learned is that it was a bad thing, and we shouldn't treat people like that.
but we were smart enough to figure that out.
Yeah.
Do they think the kids now are not that smart? What's going on?
I know.
Yeah.
I don't know. Well, but then on the flip side, you think it's like that reading books is also going to change some kids' sexual nature. No, it won't. Just like they used to think gay teachers would, like, I don't know, corrupt children and make them gay. It doesn't work that way.
No.
I mean, it's this fear. At the end of the day, the parents have the biggest influence on their children, bar none.
Yep.
And you know,
And that's how they use it.
yeah. I mean, look, when I was a kid in Orangeburg, and we were in private school that was an all-white private school, apparently, except for Nikki Haley. But you know, she sort of gets away with it. But it was an all-white school, and there were teachers that used the N-word in class. Like it was just a word.
It was. It was.
Yeah. Not in the 80s.
Oh, well, I was.
Yeah, I mean, for y'all, yeah. For me, in the 80s, no, that's generally, I mean, you don't use that. And I found that out when I said it in front of my parents.
Yes.
I learned real quick that that was not a word that you used.
Steve had that lesson also. He
Yeah,
never used it again either. And he is older than I am.
that's right. And where did you learn that? I learned it in my home. You know?
My mama explained it to me so I could understand.
I think my father explained it to me the same way, Steve.
Yeah.
And it's just, you know, that's what you, I mean, but you get that. And so kids take interest in their parents. But, you know, there's a bill in the House right now that, and this I think is already in North Carolina, where teachers have to give their lesson plans to parents every week.
I don't think so in North Carolina. I haven't heard that, Steve.
I heard it from a teacher
Oh, okay.
in North Carolina, and it may be a school district, which it may be a school district, not a state law. But and it would be either Hickory City Schools or Catawba County Schools, because that's where she lives. But there's one in South Carolina that's already passed the House, and you want to see teachers leave
Yeah.
faster than they already are. You make it to where they have to run everything past their parent, all the parents. And if the parent rejects it, then they have to think of a new way to teach it. So for all you math teachers out there, when parents reject the new math, as many of them want to, because it makes math too easy for their children and they don't understand it, so it can't be right. Come on, really? It's sort of, I mean, honestly, and some of y'all heard me complain about this before. It's sort of like Lutheran Men's and Lutheran Women's Day, where they get somebody else to come up and preach, like just somebody from the congregation just preaches. It's like, oh, I didn't go to school for it, you know. And now it's like, oh, teachers, we don't need them. They just basically read from books that's in front of them. They weren't educated to do that stuff. Doctors, nah, we can treat ourselves. I mean, it's like, come on. These people are professionals. Let them do their profession.
And I don't understand. Okay, I object to this lesson, and the teacher rewrites it, and then another parent objects. So what does the teacher do?
I don't know. I think that
And a parent.
I think if a parent rejects it, the parent should have to teach it at home.
Absolutely.
Oh, that sounds good. And they tried it during the pandemic and found out they didn't really like it.
Yeah, imagine. I mean, teachers were heroes during the pandemic. And then all of a sudden, when school went back into session, they were dirt. I mean, it's like, are you kidding me? All right, well, let's move on, because we have 15 minutes. We have, we've all been, it's sort of like my Tuesday night Bible study where we chased rabbits. All right. John 15:18 through 6:4. If the world hates you, be aware that it hated me before it hated you. If you belong to the world would love you as its own. Because you do not belong to the world, but I have chosen you out of the world. Therefore, the world hates you. Remember the word that I said to you, servants are not greater than their master. If they persecuted me, they will persecute you. If they kept my word, they will keep yours also. But they will do all these things to you on account of my name, because they do not know him who sent me. If I had not come and spoken to them, they would not have sinned. But now they have no excuse for their sin. Whoever hates me hates my Father also. If I had not done things among them, the works that no one else did, they would not have sinned. But now they have seen and hated both me and my Father. It was to fulfill the word that is written in their law. They hated me without cause. When the advocate comes, whom I will send to you from the Father, the Spirit of truth who comes from the Father, he will testify on my behalf. You also are to testify because you have been with me from the beginning. I have said these things to you to keep you from stumbling. They will put you out of the synagogues. Indeed, an hour is coming when those who kill you will think that by doing so they are offering worship to God. And they will do this because they have not known the Father or me. But I have said these things to you so that when their hour comes, you may remember that I told you about them. So read through that and then we'll chat about it.
God's gonna get you for that.
Yeah.
All right. So what jumps out at you there?
Sounds like fair warning to me.
Mhm.
Yep, very much so. Get ready. But it's okay.
Right.
And it'll be okay. I guess the key is to know whether or not they're persecuting you because of Jesus or because of you. I've known a pastor or two that feel that they are being persecuted because of Jesus. Some have been. Some are persecuted because of themselves. I think I've been on both sides of that fence.
I think everybody has.
The key to it is to know what you're doing that's causing the persecution. So what else jumps out at you there?
If I were a disciple at this point, I think I'd be scared and wonder why I signed on for this.
I think you're exactly right. But I mean, they had bigger fish to fry to be scared of at this moment.
Yeah.
I don't think they were worried about themselves. Well, I mean, I guess they kind of were worried about themselves, but persecution would not be what I would be on the top of my list. Just being killed outright would be more there, because actually it even talks about them being killed. But yeah, I hadn't signed on for this. But they ain't no backing out at this point.
No.
I mean, they're headed to the garden, or they're up. I've read one place they're still upstairs, but I don't think so. Well, actually, what it said is that this got added in later, which that's possible too. So, turning the page. One of the things that confused me, if I had not come and spoken to them, they would not have sin.
Mhm.
What do you think that means?
They took my actions the wrong way.
Yeah, that's part of it, I think.
Well, it's it's like if you don't know, you can't really be sinning. But he came and told them the truth. And so therefore they knew.
Yeah.
And it was deliberate. I mean, willful.
They have an excuse at that point. And how did Pharisees, for instance, how did they define sin?
Not following the 600 and some
13.
613 laws.
Right. Isn't that right, Hugh? I always got the number wrong until Hugh taught me. 613. Yeah, they would follow the 613 laws. And as long as they were doing that, then they were good. They weren't sinning. They were sin-free. But they were missing the big one.
Right.
Basically, the motivating factor why you do them. And it's love. And so if you don't have that motivation, I mean, that's what it's all about.
Right.
And so that's why they were supposed to be following these laws, because they loved God, loved neighbor, loved themselves. That was the whole point. But they missed that. For them, it was they loved the law. They loved the fact that they could pat themselves on the back and say, I'm good. Because it also meant that they were in control. And that's what we want. We want to be in control and say, hey, I can check this box off.
Yeah, that's fun to be able to check the box off and say, I'm good.
Yep. And when Jesus showed up, they were sinning.
Yeah.
Because, well, they were turning their back on God, literally.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so we learn, I mean, it's not about following the rules, it's about following Jesus. That's pretty good. I'm going to write that down. All right. Y'all have anything? Any more questions, comments?
Well, and verse 26 is telling them about the Holy Spirit.
Mhm.
Yep.
The advocate.
And he will be there.
Yes. So that they won't be left alone, and that the that testimony about Jesus will continue.
Right.
And so through them and through the Spirit. All right. Anything for the good order?
Margaret, can you hold up what you're crocheting? Oh, that's pretty.
It's the beginning of a high school Afghan.
Your
I
granddaughter
wondered.
has one.
Yeah. Rachel has one.
Same colors too.
Blue and blue.
Me and Margaret will have one also.
You hope.
Well, at this point, her graduating isn't really in danger. You know,
Oh, no, I know
as long
that.
as Margaret's still around to make those Afghans, we're good to go.
Oh, I've given Karen the pattern.
Oh, good. So you won't have to do them all in the future.
Right.
Well, that's good. All right. Well, y'all have an excellent day, and I'll see you soon.
Y'all too.
I'll take care.
And I
Thanks,
want
y'all.
you to, yeah,
Y'all
we'll
have a
be-
great day.